to log in live, or is there a video they can watch anytime?
They can go to the YouTube channel and watch it anytime. Yes, sir.
Okay.
All right, we can go ahead.
Am I the only one I hear you clearly, Dan, but I hear, Lauren, I'm hearing you kind of garbled. Am I the only one that's hearing that?
I'm not hearing it.
Okay, all right. Go ahead.
Okay, so we got the meeting called to at 10:01, and did we have a motion to approve the agenda?
Right. Omar made a motion and Sandra seconded it. We voted and passed.
Okay, I'm sorry.
All right, then we've covered the old business if there is none. We're up to new business.
Okay.
And let's see, first thing there is personal property digest.
Yes, sir.
What you got there, Lauren?
Okay, I'm trying to share the screen for that report. Okay, can y'all see that?
Yes.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
so this is a value report that shows the accounts and the previous value and the 2020 value. And we also, I've got a column that I added in here that shows whether that company has been audited yet and or if they filed a return for the current year, because sometimes they don't file returns. So this column at the far right is the 2020 value. And if you go all the way to the bottom, those are the account totals. But this report's including all accounts, not just the taxable ones. And so it looks like we're showing a loss. But if you actually just count the accounts that are taxable, we are actually at we actually have a gain of about $600,000 if we just look at the taxable accounts and exclude the accounts that are under $7,500. So, but I wanted to put everything in there to show all personal property accounts, even the ones that weren't taxable.
You say the ones that are not taxable are which ones now?
Anything, well, if a owner has a total combined property of less than $7,500, it's not taxable. So, and this list includes all accounts, even the ones under $7,500. So, like for instance, this Verizon, if all of their accounts were $500 except for this one was $6,500, then totaled up, they would be over $7,500, so they would be taxable. But the reason I'm sharing this is these are our final values for the personal property digest. And I was hoping to send this over for printing tomorrow so that they could get to work on our assessment notices. And I believe they told me that they should be able to mail those assessment notices for the personal property by next Friday. So we would be able to go ahead and get those out and get them in the mail. And we would have these notices sent.
Okay, so you're needing a motion to approve the values such that you can send the notice of assessments.
I need a motion to approve the values, and then we'll go to the next one with a motion to send the notices of assessment. Yes, sir.
Okay, so you want a motion just to approve the values?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let's see, Lauren presented the values for the personal property, and this includes all businesses, boats, and let's see, it does not include mobile homes, or does it?
No, sir, it's just businesses and boats.
Okay, so it's personal property with the exception of mobile homes, okay.
Mobile homes aren't considered personal property. They're a total different class of property to themselves.
Okay, thanks for clarification. Okay, so do we have a motion to approve the values for 2020 for personal property as presented by Lauren?
Motion?
Second.
Okay. All right, now we got a motion on the floor. Do any discussion or questions for Lauren? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Let's see, Homer, did you vote?
Yes, I did. I'll revote.
Okay, thanks. Okay. All right, so the motion passes. Okay. Let's see, what's next on the agenda, Lauren?
Well, y'all, that was just approving the digest, right? And then the next was to approve the mailing of the assessment notices.
Okay, so you need a separate motion for, okay, so to approve the preparation and mailing of the assessment notices.
Yes, sir. Can you see the agenda now, Dan?
Yes, it's back on the screen there, okay. Okay, I see that was your next item, B, okay. So moving on to B is approval to mail personal property notice of assessment. And that would be the notices regarding the values that we just looked at. Let's see, and do we have a motion?
Motion?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the mailing of the personal property notice of assessments. Is there any discussion? Let's see, Lauren, will that be using, that'll be using the same vendor that we've used?
No, sir. We're going to use a different vendor. When I checked pricing this year, I got a better pricing from another vendor. So we're going to use them for this year's notices and see how that goes. I got pricing from 3 different vendors this year. And we're going to use the one that had the lowest pricing.
Who was that, Lauren?
Divco Data. We discussed that during the budget meeting.
Right.
Is there any kind of agreement with them, or how does that work? Or do you just?
There's just basically the agreement's just to pay them for services rendered.
In accordance with a quote that?
Yes, sir. We had been having some problems with our other vendor, with just a lot of mix-ups, and then they were billing for things that weren't in the original pricing. It had a lot of add-ons, and then there were some problems with the notices and stuff like that. So that's why I checked prices from some other companies and decided to try something different.
Okay.
Who was the vendor before?
South Data.
Okay.
Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, motion passes. All right, let's see, then the next item is discuss the schedule updates. Lauren, what you got on that?
Okay, so when we had our last meeting, Dan requested that I send you guys a copy of those spreadsheets from Greg Reese. Did y'all have time to review those?
Those are the ones I could not pull them up on my phone. It would not let me pull them up. Sometimes stuff you send me comes through really well. Sometimes it won't let me pull it up.
Okay.
Why don't you walk us through that again, Lauren? I got a little bit confused myself. I know you and Stan were trying to give us an update last time, but just from the technical side, and it was just the number, just, you know, the number crunching and the math. Refresh us on the conclusions from the sales study.
Okay, let me pull these up from where I sent them to you guys. What was the date of our last meeting?
I think it was 2 weeks ago today was the 6th, wasn't it?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, can you guys see that on your screen?
Right now, I'm still, okay, there it popped up. There's about a second delay or two. Okay.
I'm able to see
Yeah.
it.
You're gonna need to blow it up so we can, or zoom in your screen so we can see.
Okay, I'm trying.
I got it.
It's not letting me, I'm trying to magnify, but it's not letting me. Oh.
It let me enlarge on my end. Though.
And for whatever reason, it's not letting me. Let's see, maybe. Is that a little better?
Yeah, I think you're zooming in now,
Yeah.
looks like. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, that's better.
Okay. So after the consultants did the sales study, they recommended a base change to our schedules. Like, for instance, there's a base price per square foot for all houses, and the accessories, the garage, porch, you know, according to whether it's screened or opened or enclosed, the base price for utility rooms, garages, etc. They were recommending a change, an increase on those base values. Like for instance, the deck from $10 to $15 a square foot. You can see these numbers here, so I won't call each one of them out. And then like the fireplaces from $1,500 to $2,500. The base dollars on the square footage of the houses from $50 to $65, based on sales. And of course, those numbers also depreciate based on the year the house that was built and the grade and that sort of thing. So those were the recommendations. And I would say across the board, there was probably around a 10 to 15% increase on house values. And
So that's on the capital improvements, you know, houses, garages, carports, and buildings and structures.
yes, sir.
Okay.
And so that was the recommendation, was to bring those values up to meet the current sales in the county, to keep our ratio study the way it needs to be. With that being, I'm sorry, go ahead,
I'm
Mr.
sorry.
Kent.
Does that mean that the land prices are not changing?
We haven't gotten to the land yet.
Okay.
So with that being said, this study was done before the current pandemic that we have in place and the uncertainty with the current economy, people being out of work, that sort of thing. And
Why don't you finish, Lauren, why don't you finish going through the full report, and then we'll talk about as far as recommendation and so on.
Okay, so I mean, you don't want me to line by line item this residence. You want me to go to the land now?
Yeah, it seemed like there several pages. Some was
Yes, sir.
small
Okay, so
parcels, big
also
par.
up here at the top of this schedule change, there are different classes of land. We have our urban land, those are like subdivisions. And then we have small parcels, and then we have large parcels. And so they were recommending the urban land changes, as you see here, only on these 4 areas of the county based on sales. So the Oak Mountain Estate area that's by the lake, they were recommending an increase on the acres there, only on the lakefront property. And then in Neely subdivision, they were recommending an increase in the lot, $1,000 per lot. And then in downtown Talbot, those lots are so small, they're based on square foot values. And so they were recommending an increase there on the price per square foot for those 2 locations. So that's the urban land. And then and this is showing the ratio study for, and on the left is the before, and on the right's the after. So and we're trying to get this center right here to the 40%. And as you can see, it was low, and these changes brought the ratio up into the 40%.
So that's testing the numbers you just
Yes,
showed
sir.
us. Okay.
This first set is the land and houses, and then the second set's land only, and the third set's houses only. So, and then this is a sales list that shows the ratios of the properties that have sold. That's part that they use to make the study. And then initially, Greg had recommended a 3% increase on large tracts. That would be all tracts over 40 acres to bring the ratio up to the 40% on the large tracts.
Okay, remind us the small acreage break point.
40, I just said, yes, sir, 40 acres.
Well, that's the 40 acres. That's what we as a board have set by our county.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And then the small parcels, those that fall between that aren't subdivisions but are less than the 40 acres, they did not recommend any increase on those. So that covers everything. There were 4 subdivisions with recommended increases. They recommended increase on base rates for commercial and residential property. And then they recommended a 3% increase on large land tracts.
Okay. And why don't we pause here and just see if there's questions about the study. In other words, if I'm understanding right, what the study found was that for small parcels, our values are still pretty good based on sales over the last year, I guess.
Yes, sir.
And then for large parcels, it found what you had suspected is that the sales values were going up, and so the sales study is they were recommending a 3% increase for the large tracts. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And then the biggest change, as Lauren was talking about, was on the buildings and homes, and garages and so on there, that there was a right big jump, and I guess that's just inflation and where the cost of building something is more today than it was a few years ago when we had the reevaluation done. And so based on the sales from last year, let's see, Lauren, you said it was what, probably 10 to 15%.
Yes, sir.
And it varies a little bit depending on which one of those subdivisions it's in. And but what those are the base values that are plugged into the computer, that are sort of the starting point for, doing the mass appraisals.
Right.
And so, in a nutshell, the sales study did show and sort of validate, when Lauren sounded the alarm. I guess you started it probably back in October, and then November. I remember you went to or I guess represented us at the Board of Commissioners because we were all unavailable when they met in December. You went and presented the, requesting additional money in this year's budget. And so, was what I'm seeing is it validated you sounding the alarm that our sales ratio study would continue to get further and further away from 40. And it was, remind us, last year, wasn't it 0.38 something?
Yes, sir.
And so, and I think 0.38 is the.
And y'all got to remember also that those run a year behind. So like right now, they're currently working on the 2019 study. So that study was a 2018 study.
Right. And I believe, let's see, if we fall below the 0.38, then the utilities, they're adjusted to whatever. If it's 0.37 something, they're taxed at the 37% rather than the 40%. Is that right?
It is.
Okay, so that's what's critical about staying within the acceptable ranges. And so, so anyway, from a technical point of view, the report did validate, the concerns that Lauren and her staff were beginning to see as they were looking at the deeds and sales. And so, so of course we were pleased that, let's say, I believe it was GMAS that did this. That's who, and let's see, it was Stan King that was.
Well, he does the residential, and then Greg Reese does the rural end.
Right. So you've been working with both of them. Stan was representing the firm at our meeting 2 weeks ago. And so, of course, we were pleased they got the task completed by the end of April. And of course, they did what we asked them to do. And, but then what was getting a little bit confusing is, as we all know, in recent weeks, we've had the pandemic event. And, of course, you turn on the news and it's all about the economy and people getting furloughed and laid off and, just sort of dire economic news. And so the question now becomes is, do we need to consider a pivot? Do we stay on course and implement these recommendations? Or do we need to make a pivot and sort of decide, do we need to adjust course or refine our course or and so I think. So then, Lauren, you went back and talked to Greg some more since our last meeting about the recommendations and about what the options are. And let's see, are you ready to recommend to us, and was to give us your recommendation.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Before we do,
With the economy and the uncertainty the way that it is, I am going to recommend that we take the base rates for the residential and commercial improvements and put them back the way they were for 2019 without the increase, and as well as those urban land records back to the 2019 values without the increase, and increase the rural land to 3% that was recommended. And after speaking with Greg, they did say that at the end of the year, they will, without an additional charge, look back at those values and the studies that they did. And if the economy has not changed, then we can put those values in place for the next year.
Those values for the smaller parcels, you're saying?
The base rates for the residential improvements and the urban land. The small parcels did not reflect the need for an increase at the current time.
Yeah.
okay. And just to sort of refresh us, if I understand, there have not been many sales or very few here in recent weeks because of folks staying at home and sort of business not, and so what I understand is you've not seen any drastic change yet in, like house values dropping or foreclosures or whatever. But in a few months, y'all are going to look at it and see, y'all are going to reevaluate it and sort of see what the sales are between now and the end of the year and see if that affects the study. Is that what is?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
Okay.
And you can see here our 2018 ratio was 38.99. So we were actually right at the 39. We have to drop below 38 to not be able to collect fully on the public utilities.
So I guess we were in good shape, but the thing is we want to stay in good shape.
Correct. Yes, sir.
But we were falling because we were right at 40 right after the reevaluation.
A little above. Yes, sir.
Right. So we were sort of heading in the wrong, our values were getting too low or heading a little bit low. So
I've got a question of Lauren.
Yeah, we were at 41.13 after the reevaluation in 2017.
okay, so you can see there that it dropped from 41.13 to 38.9. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so okay. Okay. Well, I tell you what. Why don't we make a motion? Lauren's given us her recommendation. Why don't we get a motion and a second on the floor, and then we can discuss and ask Lauren questions and discuss her recommendation.
Motion.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. To approve Lauren's recommendation. Okay, so now I'll open it for discussion.
I've got a question pertaining to the large parcels. It seems reasonable to me what you said about the smaller parcels, I guess residentials and those things, delaying an increase. And you said we would go ahead and implement, if I understand correctly, implement the 3% increase on the larger parcels. But I missed your rationale for not delaying them as well. What was that?
Okay, I didn't give one. But my reasoning here is there are several things. And so to begin with, when we did our reevaluation, we did it in 2 steps. We did the large land reevaluation in 2016, and then we did everything else in 2017, small parcels, urban land, and residential and commercial improvements. So we did a 2-step reevaluation. And
What you're saying is those values are a little older than the other. In other words, the values are a little bit older than the urban properties.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So the values that are currently in the system for the tracts over 40 acres are the 2016 values. So that's one reason. And then the second reason would be that a lot of times when there's a downturn in the economy and people are concerned about the stock market, they tend to invest their money into land because they know that land is going to be there. And so that was another reasoning. And then lastly, almost probably 95% of our large land tracts are in a conservation covenant. And those conservation values go up 3% every year. And I didn't see any change from the Department of Revenue. They kept the 3% increase on those parcels for the conservation and FLIPA values. And so if they feel that the values increased to 3% for the year, I feel confident that with our sales calling for it, that we could also apply that. And the taxpayers won't feel the brunt of that increase because our 3% increase, because they have covenants in place.
So if I understand, Lauren, what you're saying is, sort of in a nutshell, is that in December, you could look back and there could be an impact to houses if folks miss mortgage payments and, you know, that and they could be more susceptible to economic downturn, and whereas you feel like the large tracts would be less impact and more likely
Yes,
to stay not lose the value.
Correct.
Okay.
Another question, even though I know we're not implementing it, I mean, you're recommending that we don't implement the taxes on the lower end yet. I noticed the initial, on one of them, small parcels, I guess, the recommendation was to go from 3,000 to 4,000. What percentage is that?
Are you talking about on those?
That'd be a third, wouldn't it?
I'm thinking it's a third, yes. So that's 33% increase. Isn't that high?
The $1,000 per lot. So those lots are valued per lot. They're not valued based on acreage. They're not valued based on size. And what we have to look at is there were sales in that area. And when the improvements were subtracted from those sales, they were indicating that the lots were worth approximately $4,000, not $3,000.
Where is that Neely subdivision, Lauren?
I believe that's Junction City. Hold on just a second.
Okay.
Is that where the Neelys once had that sand pit?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay.
And I guess that's part of it. I was surprised to see how drastic some of the base values had changed. In other words, that they were sort of, more volatile or whatever. And I guess which I guess makes sense in a strong market, houses go up when they, but but it also appears, that they could be more volatile. And then part of the concern, I guess, would be if we implemented these new values, it could, folks could be getting a tax bill show or notice of assessments showing values have gone up 10 or 15%, and which might not be a good time with everything going on, to get it might be alarming to folks.
Yes, sir.
In this area, COMM-Washington.
That's commercial.
Okay. Okay, so the increase on them would be more than 100%, almost. Yeah, more than 100%.
On their land, but I know that sounds like a lot, but when you look at it, the lot may only be valued at $200 because of the size. And so it's not an exorbitant increase. You may only be talking about $10, even though the lot value tripled. The amount is not a lot. Does that make sense?
Yeah, from this end it does, but if I'm on the receiving end and I see my last year's bill and compare it to this year, it would make sense, but it wouldn't be, I wouldn't appreciate it very much.
Right. Yes, sir. And I understand that, but we have to, when we're doing these, if we weren't in an economic crisis, we have to follow the sales. And that's what they're showing. Because of this, I am not recommending this increase because of the pandemic. But if that wasn't the case, we would have to follow the sales, and when the customer came in, I would just have to explain it to them.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So in other words, that's why I wanted you to go through the technical part first, and just the report from, sort of, as I say, staying on course, from doing the sales study. And so, like I said, the sales study does validate you sounding the alarm, a few months back, that it was time to do the sales study. And I remember you emphasized the urgency of it, that, when you first mentioned it, I think I made the comment at the meeting, just remind us at budget time and we'll put it in next year's budget. And you said that's going to be too late. And so, and I think these numbers we see, validate you sounding the alarm. And because it is, a little surprising to me, to see that the numbers, have gone up, which reflects, the sales prices in recent months, have folks have been paying, the prices have been higher than, and going up, sort of on the upward trend, I guess. But then these are what Lauren, you're proposing to us to come back in a few months and look at the sales study again, and just to sort of take a wait and see approach over the next few months. On these, the residential and urban properties.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And can y'all see that? I'm trying to get it where it's showing properly. This area right here that's showing on their screen right now, that's that Neely subdivision area.
It hadn't pulled up yet, but it may be. Maybe a second or two delay.
Because it's so detailed.
Trying to share your screen.
Yeah, y'all have it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And what are we looking at here?
This is the area that you questioned, the Neely subdivision.
Newly, okay.
Okay, there
in
it is.
Junction City.
Yeah.
And then the other one's just gonna be the commercial district in downtown Talbot.
Okay.
So are some of those vacant lots that still got to be developed?
Yeah, there's a couple of vacant lots there.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, all right, thanks, Lauren.
Okay, let me change the screen share back to the agenda. Okay. So just to summarize, we're going to put the base schedule numbers back to where they were for 2019 for residential and urban. The small parcels are going to stay the same because there was no recommended increase on those. That's just the land parcels that are under 40 acres but not considered urban. And then all of our ag tracts that are 40 acres and above will see a 3% increase in their base rates.
Okay, and just to clarify, that's your recommendation to us, and that's our motion that's pending right now. Because we've been having discussion on your recommendation.
Right, yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. Is there any more discussion or questions for Lauren? And let's see, Lauren, on this, I guess sort of like you do the personal property update, you probably need to update us in the coming months on what you see with the sales and you know, just what you're seeing.
Yes, sir.
And did you and Greg, did y'all talk about when to get back? And it was, the other thing you were going to share is they weren't going to charge that, they were going to consider that part of the price for the original sales study.
That's correct.
Even though technically they've done what we asked, they realize it's a unique situation, and you know, they're willing to evaluate the sales in the coming months and just to, you know, crunch the numbers and see what impact it makes.
Yes, sir.
All right, well, let's see if there's no further discussion. Are we ready to vote? Okay, all those in favor of approving Lauren's recommendation. Let's see, Lauren, your recommendation is to go ahead and implement the 3% increase on the large tracts.
Yes.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, the motion passes.
Lauren, would you please resend that information we just went over? Would you please resend that to me at some
Yes,
point?
ma'am, or I could just print it out for you and send it to Mr. Paul.
Okay.
All right, will y'all give me just 1 second, please? I'm gonna mute my computer.
Okay.
One at a time.
Okay, I apologize. So the next thing here is, once those changes are made, to our current schedules, we will, and we're in the process of doing a little bit more field work, that we have to check some permits and that sort of thing that we did not get to follow up on at the beginning of the year because of the weather. We had so much rain.
And just to clarify, you say permits, that's the building permits.
Building permits, yes, sir.
Right, from the building and zoning office.
Correct.
Okay.
So we don't have a lot left to do. I would say it's around less than 40 to check. We should have that done hopefully by the middle of next week. I would like to get approval to mail those assessment notices once these base values are corrected and we have finished picking up those new constructions and things that were permitted. And I can have the final value report for y'all at the next meeting, but just so we can go ahead and stay on track, I was going to ask for approval to mail those notices as well.
Right, but you're going to do some check. You're going to check the final value report closely.
Absolutely.
Make
yes,
sure
sir.
all the changes are go through the computer satisfactorily.
What I was going to do, what I usually do is I'll run a report, a percent increase and a percent decrease report that'll show me how much that property value changed in comparison to last year. And I'll filter it for anything over like a 10% increase or decrease, and then closely scrutinize those properties to make sure there was no mistake. That's the way I usually do my checks and balances before we mail notices.
Okay. All right, but you want approval to mail the real property notice of assessments.
Yeah, and I would think we should be ready to send those over for mailing probably within a week or a week and a half. And then it usually takes them 3 or 4 days to get them ready for printing. So I'm looking at maybe around the first week of June.
Okay.
And that'll have us
And they're
just about
they're
2
normally
weeks.
done about mid-May, aren't they?
That's what I was just fixing to say. We'll be about 2 weeks behind where we usually are.
Right, and just to remind everyone, what that does is push out the timeline, because when the notices are mailed, then folks have, 45 days to appeal. That starts the appeals process. And so normally we get the digest completed in August and certified, so and of course the county commissioners set the millage rates and the school board sets the millage rates and so on. So tax notices normally get mailed in September with a due date of taxes being due in December. But I guess considering all we've been through this year, these last few weeks, and the teleworking and all, if we're only 2 weeks behind, we're doing pretty good.
Yes, sir. And honestly, I mean, that's the majority of that's just from the weather at the beginning of the year. And then of course the social distancing, so we couldn't go out and check permits when we had the shelter in place order. So I would say so. The 2 weeks it's pretty good as far as I'm concerned.
Okay. Well, let's say I guess we need a motion to approve the mailing of the real property notices.
Yes, sir.
Motion?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the real property notices. Is there any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Sandra, did you vote?
I did, yes.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so motion passes. Okay, let's see, next item you got is homestead applications for
Yes, sir.
2020.
We've got homestead application for Alan and Laurie William. They bought the property mid-2017, which was also when his veterans exemption was approved late 2017. So the first year they owned the property would be 2018. So we're looking at approving it and then going back and editing the tax. We're looking at approving it for 2020 and then going back and editing the tax bill for 2018 and 2019.
And that's in accordance with that law change
Yes, sir.
a year or so ago that said because of the Veterans Administration taking so long to approve them that you go back up to 3 years.
Correct.
Right, okay. So you're recommending approval, is that where you're?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let's say Lauren's recommending approval of a homestead application. Let's see, this one, are you doing it separate or have you just got this one?
This is just the one.
Okay, so we just got one homestead application. Lauren's recommending approval. Do we have a motion to approve?
Motion?
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion? If none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thanks, Art. Motion passes. Let's see, we're ready to move on to conservation use.
Yes, sir. And
Do we
so
have any applications?
we do. Let me pull those. Let me share those on the screen. Let's see here. Okay. Y'all see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it just popped up, okay.
And so as you guys know, the deadline for conservation and FLIPA was extended to June the 15th. So this first one is for Larry and Claudia Watkins and Miss Davidson. It's a continuation based due to a sale. The Kelly Zimmerman is a renewal, means the covenant ran out, and then the release of the previous covenant. Same for Woodall, renew and release the previous covenant, and then Flournoy is a continuation because of a sale. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 parcels to approve and to release.
So your recommendation is to approve these 5 that you're presenting at this meeting.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so do we have a motion to approve the CUBA applications as presented
Applications and releases.
and releases as presented by Lauren?
Motion?
Second.
Okay, any discussion or questions?
Clarify, the minimum acreage on these 10 or 5?
10 acres, but if you have a house, it's 2 acres per house. So if you had a piece of property with 2 houses on it, you'd have to have at least 14 acres.
Okay.
Now, if somebody had a 5-acre tract, they would have to supply supplemental documentation. You know, like if they had a 5-acre tract where they were growing hay for their cows, but it wasn't contiguous or something like that, then if they could prove to us that they were baling hay on that property, they could still apply for it, but we would just have to have the supplemental documentation.
Okay.
Okay, is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, motion passes.
Okay.
All right, and let's see, I see you got breach. Are there any breaches this month?
None.
Okay, none, okay. So ready to move on to Forest Land Protection Act.
Yes, sir.
We got any FLIPA applications?
We do. Let me scroll down here. These are also continuations based on sales. Brown Brothers own this parcel and it was under conservation. It was under FLIPA. It's a piece of land that they're just holding for later development. It was subdivided into 3 LLCs, and their application is to continue the FLPA on each subparcel.
And all of these subparcels meet the 200 acre.
Well, they don't have, not when they're subdivided after the initial application, they don't have to.
Oh, because they're
200 acres
continuation.
anymore.
I see, because they're required the continuation, what Brown Brothers had
Correct.
entered into a covenant in prior, okay. So all of these 3 are basically the same fellow, that are just different businesses he's created.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. All right. Do we have a motion to approve the FLIPA's applications as presented?
Motion?
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any discussion or questions on these applications?
Kind of a follow-up question. When you, on the size, you were saying, Lauren, you were saying they don't have to meet the 200 acre requirement because it was a sale?
Initially when the FLIPA was put in, they had to have over 200 acres. So it had to be at least 200.01 acres. And then if it was subdivided, it didn't breach it. They could continue it for the life of the covenant, but then if it was under the acreage break, they couldn't renew it once the covenant ended. But now those forest land have, the restrictions on acreage have changed. And within the last couple of years, the acreage changed, and I would have to pull the code book to be 100% certain because it's changed so much, but I'm thinking that now the landowner just has to own that many acres. It doesn't really matter the size of the subparcel, even for a new covenant.
Okay. So we're not necessarily looking at 600 acres here total.
No, it's, let me see, hold on just a sec.
So as long as the initial purchase is over 200 acres, they can, or whatever it's changed to, they can subdivide within that as long as they stay within that acreage.
As long as the use stays the same.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so here's the parcel that we're talking about. The Palustris is 184, the Ligna is 100, and the Trinity is 87.
Okay.
All right, are there any more questions or discussion? If none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, thanks. All right, well, motion passes. All right, Lauren, what's next on the agenda?
Members matters.
Okay, we're up to member matters. Okay, Sandra, do you have anything this time?
No, I do not.
Okay, Omar, do you have anything?
Well, I've got, before we get to members, I've got a question on the Basilica thing. Are we not, is that not one of these? It wouldn't fall under one of these applications, you know, the thing.
The what now?
Was that the Mike Buckner?
Yeah, Buckner thing. Are
Why
we,
don't you give us a quick
that
update,
resolved?
Lauren? And maybe you can do it now here and remember, Matt, just give us a quick update. Omar was asking the status of the, I guess is it listed as Pachalaga Museum? Is that the official name of Mike's?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We did go and do a site check on that property, and we took pictures to document the inside. We were told that the downstairs is open to the public, preferably by appointment. There are no set hours. And I received an email late last night from our attorney discussing the merits and some previous cases that were similar. I forwarded that to you guys this morning to review. Not really quite ready to make a formal recommendation on that yet. But no, Mr. McCants, I mean, the FLIPA or the conservation wouldn't apply because this just goes towards the house and the little bit of land underneath it, because the 50 acres that's the mill and museum around, outdoor museum that's around this property is already being exempted. So at this time, we're just talking about the house and the land, the 0.2 acres that the house is sitting directly on.
And nobody lives in it.
No, they do live in it. Mr. and Miss Buckner, that's their primary residence.
Okay.
And I guess the status on that, Lauren, is you're still researching and consulting with the attorney and the Department of Revenue officials. You're still investigating it.
Right.
You're not ready. That's why you didn't have it on today's agenda, is you're not ready to make a recommendation yet.
Correct. And so
Okay.
just for, to clarify, their notice of assessment will go out with the property being taxable. Once we consider that, according to the board's decision, we could do an error and release to release the taxes if that's the decision. But currently it will go out as a taxable property.
And I guess we can go ahead and share. I guess it appears, based on what I saw the email yesterday and the citing several court cases and Supreme Court decision and so on. And it appears what y'all are finding is that the taxable exemption hinges on the primary use. And since the primary use is as a residence, it appears that I guess right now it appears that you may be recommending denial, but you're still looking at it.
Yes, sir. Let me pull that. Let me pull my code book and read y'all that section.
Well, you don't have to. You just a status update. If you're still working on it, he did call. I think he called me, and I think he probably called each one of us. I think, if I recall, and so it could keep. I appreciate you keeping us posted on the developments and what you're doing to move it forward.
Yes, sir.
When I say move it forward, I'm just saying move it forward to a resolution or whatever. So.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let's see, Omar, did that that answer what you?
That answers that. Now on members matters, as you recall, my tenure is supposedly a 1-year deal based on, I guess I took the latter part of somebody else's term. When does that expire?
8/31/2020.
May 31?
8.
Oh, 8/31.
8 August.
Okay. And then after that, I would have to get reappointed for, it must be a 3-year period?
Is it five? It's either 5 or 6 year term. Let me look.
I want to say it was 6. You know, you looked, I was thinking it was 5 and this would be my 5th year, but you looked here recently and it was a 6-year term.
Yes, sir. It's a 6 year term.
Okay, so I know then that we need to start looking for someone to replace me, I guess. I don't know how we do that, but I will have no interest in doing it for that period of time. I thought maybe I would do it another year, but I know I'm not going to do it for 5 years.
Well, if you're willing to continue on, I'd say get reappointed, and then I think you're the it probably goes back to when Ronnie Hendricks was appointed, and then John Hale replaced Ronnie, and then you replaced John. And so I mean, as far as the terms, I think if you want to resign, you can resign at any time, I think.
That's correct.
So,
Okay.
but I appreciate you sharing that. Coach,
Okay.
I guess
Well, you know, not that it's not, not that I'm not having fun, but I know that I'm not, like today, I was kind of caught, you know, between a rock and a hard place. But if I would be interested, I would not mind doing it another year, but I not more than that. So if I need to resign, if I need to put in a letter of resignation now for this year or next year, you tell me and I'll act accordingly.
Yes, sir.
okay.
All right?
Why don't the two of y'all coordinate with Carol, and you might, as a courtesy, just remind her, because I guess the Board of Commissioners needs to have it on their monthly agenda
Yes, sir.
before August. In other words, so there's no, in other words, we want to have a quorum and be able to continue our meetings.
Okay.
And so, but Omar, it's a pleasure serving with you, and hope you continue on.
Oh, I've enjoyed it. It's been great. I've learned a lot, and dealing with you folks have been very good. I've enjoyed it. It's been good.
I would recommend you just go ahead and do another year after August and then turn in resignation during that year.
Okay. Well, I will do, I don't have a problem in doing that. If I was thinking that I had to go ahead and sign up for 3 years and had to do that period.
No, sir.
Well, I think the way it works is the law says 6-year terms.
Oh, okay.
So in the minute, so in the Board of Commissioners, their appointment will be for 6 years, and it'll say, you know, till 2026.
Mm-hmm.
But what that
And
means is they can't kick you off, but you can step down if you want to.
Okay. Okay. Well, that would work then.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But Lauren, you'll just check through to make sure all is according to Hoyle, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Good enough. I just wanted to make you aware of my intentions.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Omar. Let's see, is there anything else under member matters? I guess all the trainings that were scheduled are now either online courses, or I guess there's no in-person training going on right now.
None, no, sir.
And I guess we saw the email that the GAAO annual meeting in July has been canceled. The meeting they have each summer at Jekyll, and I think they're still trying to decide whether they're going to do some kind of web meeting to elect officers and do the regular business. But they just said more information would be coming, but they did cancel the summer meeting at Jekyll.
Yes, sir.
And then I guess, let's see, caveat that was set for May has been rescheduled for the week after Thanksgiving. That end of November, 1st of December week in Athens. So I guess that's tentative dates, but I guess everybody's sort of a wait and see, you know, what's going to happen in the coming months.
Yes, sir.
All right, let's see, I don't see there's, you have no business today for executive session.
No, sir.
Okay. All right, and let's see, the next meeting, let's see, we've been meeting right frequently here lately, but I think we're pretty well caught up, aren't we, on the business that you, things
Yes,
you need?
sir. If we could possibly look towards the end of June, that way all of the, CUBA applications for the extended deadline would be in the office. I think that might be a good idea.
What about that Wednesday, July the 1st?
So no June meeting at all?
Well, it'll be the very next day, the July 1st.
I mean, I think we're required to meet every month.
What date are you recommending, Lauren?
I mean, I was thinking anytime after maybe the 17th would be fine. I don't know if Dan's thinking he's gonna be out of town or.
Well, and two, I was thinking about, if we pushed out a little further, maybe things would continue to, maybe we could be back to in person by then, but I don't know. I know this morning we had a few little technical glitches.
But we've done really well. Today's been just the worst day we've had, and it hasn't been that bad.
Yeah, it has gone real well, I thought.
I've been amazed.
Well, let's see, Lauren, you want to maybe say Wednesday, the 24th?
That sounds great.
Okay. Why don't we put that as tentative?
And let's just go ahead and clarify the time for sure.
Why don't you
9:30,
say
10?
10?
Is 10 okay with you, Omer?
Yeah, that's fine. The earlier the better, but whatever time is, any time works.
I can do anything but at 9 or after. That's fine.
Yeah, I'm good with any time.
I think we were meeting a little earlier on a couple of our previous meetings because we had so much business.
Okay.
But today it seems to, we're sort of back to normal on the business.
And actually, the upcoming meeting should be even shorter because, I mean, the majority of our business has been handled for the year at this point.
Okay.
So is it 9:30 or 10?
Let's say 10.
Okay. So 10 o'clock, June 18th?
24th, Wednesday.
24th. Does Wednesday work good for folks?
Yeah, any day's good for me that
Yeah,
I
that's
don't
fine.
appointment. Yeah.
Okay.
Wednesday, June 20. Say again the date, Lauren.
June 24th.
June 24th at 10 o'clock.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And let's see, and then I guess just update everybody. Y'all are now back at the office as of Monday this week. County offices reopened to the public. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Just give us a quick update, just what's going on.
Well, we have the front door unlocked, but we are conducting all business at the window. And I think some of the county offices are unlocking their doors, but we're here and we're helping the public at the transaction window. Is there anything else you wanted clarification on?
Well, I guess, and let's say y'all are back doing field work too. Is that?
Yes, sir.
Doing site visits and
Yes, sir.
making appointments with folks. And then there at your office, if they ring that doorbell, do y'all let them in, or depending on the business, or just, or do
No,
y'all
we
just
just
meet
help
with
them
them
at the window.
Just meet at the window and do the transactions there?
Yes, yes, sir.
All right, and then, let's see, I think too, early voting started this week for the June 9th primary, and I learned yesterday they moved the election office to that new building. I think it's called the old Maxway building, and there beside the new jail.
Yes, sir.
Let's see, have you heard anything from Carol on our budget
No, sir.
transmittal? No questions, no developments, okay.
I have not. I know that Quentin did say that his promotion was effective when he received his check this morning.
Okay, great, okay, thanks for confirming that. Okay, is there anything else today before we adjourn? All right, well, let's see, I guess we're ready for a motion for adjournment.
Motion?
I'm
Second.
showing, let's see, 11:20, is that right?
I've got 11. Yep, 11:20.
Okay. All right, so let's see, I hear a motion to adjourn.
Yes, you did, motion.
Okay.
In a second, yeah.
Okay, all right. All those in favor say aye.
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 Okay. All right, thanks everyone. And like I said, I think this went smooth.
And for what it's worth, Sandra, I just went ahead and scheduled the 24th meeting, and I texted it to your iPad, so it should be there. And Mr.
Okay,
I also emailed it to your AOL address.
Thank you
Okay.
very much.
right,
Okay?
okay. Thank you
Keep
much.
us posted, Lauren, on any, I know I see where governments are doing like phased openings. Keep us posted on developments within the county, you know, what's going on.
Yes, sir.
And have the Board of Commissioners, have they met yet? I mean, are they still holding off on their regular meetings?
I know they had a brief meeting, like Monday a week ago, but I don't know that they conducted all of their monthly business. I'm not sure.
Okay. All right, well, thanks, and thanks for all you do and your staff. Thank you, staff, on behalf of the board for how quickly they adapted to the teleworking and maintaining productivity and so on.
Yes, sir, I sure will.
Okay.
All right, y'all have a great rest of your week.
You
All right,
too.
thanks, Steve.
All right,
Aye.
bye.
Bye.